It is Sunday morning. Welcome. As I center and ground myself, I encourage you to take a nice deep breath and just let last week go. You can let last month go. You can let this entire year go. Center yourself into the sacred now. Center yourself into that heart space, the space where you breathe freely and easily, the place where you are safe, the place where you are warm or cool, the place where you meet God, the place where Spirit wraps around you. Take one nice, deep, cleansing breath. Feel your roots down into the earth. And feel your mind stretch up into the heavens. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in the quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner acceptance and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender to the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of infinite presence, I simply speak these words, I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive myself and anyone who has injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I'm continually experiencing the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow the higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week, visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea as a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled, and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude, and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me, a friend, a family member, a mentor, someone who has touched my life in powerful and loving ways, someone who is not physically present in the room with me this morning. And I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes to the world around me and turn joyfully to the person next to me and share my gratitude and confidence by saying, I am grateful for the good in your life. I am extremely grateful for the good of the lives of the people in the room with me, and I'm also very grateful for each and every one of you watching.
I have a lot to tell you this morning. We're working in a series on extra senses, and today is, I'll give you the punchline first. Today is the cosmic sense. We talked the first week about a sense of, there must be more than this, and last week a sense of the mystic and intuitive. This is the cosmic sense. They all overlap, they all blend together. The sense of having a purpose, the sense of having a divine destiny. There's a reason that you came here. Now I say that, and I hasten to add, if you have a bad case of the don't wannas. Marcia was talking about this, and yeah, let's see the hands. Marcia was talking about this in the write-up for I think the Revealing Wholeness class, or one of the classes going on. She said, do you have a case of the don't wannas? If you have a case of the don't wannas, I have a remedy for you. You don't have to. You don't wanna, you don't have to. Now you might say, well, I have to go to work. I have to feed my family. I have concerns and questions. I have to take care of my health. This is true. But the thing that you really don't want to do, the exertion that you really don't want to pay, you didn't come here to pay in the first place. You want to feed your family. You want to go to work. You want to make a difference in the world. You know that. But you get pushed in different directions that aren't your soul's calling, and those are the things that you don't have to do. You don't have to be heroic in every attempt. You don't have to succeed at every try. One of the great definitions of success is the willingness to pick yourself back up after you've failed. One of the great definitions of courage is not to work without fear, but it's to go through the fear into the lion's mouth, into the thing that is before you to do. You don't have to do it today. You don't have to do it in the way that's been prescribed or the way that anybody else has done it. You are unique. Now, there are paradoxes in this teaching. Here's another one of them. We touch on them every week. Here's another one. We're all one, and you are unique. We're all one, and I am unique, and he is unique, and they are unique. Everybody within themselves is unique. Also, I learned in grammar, you can't be more unique. Because unique means like unique. There are no degrees of uniqueness. If you're unique, you're just that, right? See, so, well, each of us is unique, and each of us came here to be exactly who we are. And I suppose to accomplish certain things, but those things change over time. The things that you wanted to do when you were a small person, you decided to move in different directions. The thing maybe that you were educated to do, the career that you went into, may have branched out into other things. I've shared with you before that I never thought I'd be doing this. I'm doing it a really long time now, but I'm doing it in a different way every day within myself because I'm learning new things, and when I learn them, I have to pass them on to you. This is to me what a spiritual teacher does, is they learn things and they share them with others, and they do the best they can with that. Each of us here teaching at the center teaches in our own way. We are unique, each one of us, in how we put this material across. Well, there's a cartoon this week that is especially, I think, for our ministers and practitioners and group leaders and so on, and it was this. There is a seminar on anxiety dreams. A seminar on anxiety dreams, and a person shows up to take that seminar, and they're told, you're late, you're in the wrong building, and you were supposed to introduce the speaker. You ever had that kind of a dream? I have that kind of a dream. I had a dream a few weeks ago that I was to speak to lots and lots of people, and you know who else was there? Jeffrey. And I showed up, and you know what he'd done? And I'm still mad at him about it. And in my dream, and this never happened, but you can still be mad at people for stuff that they could have done. I showed up at this thing. I was to be the speaker. It was huge. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the old Hofheinz Pavilion. Did you ever go down there at U of H where they had concerts and played basketball? Anyway, it was this kind of real low ceiling, with thousands of people. And I showed up to speak, and he had started the thing 45 minutes early. And they're looking all over for me. So I want you to feel really, really guilty about that, Jeffrey, for absolutely no reason. Because this is what people put on. You ever wonder if people are mad at you for no reason? You were in their dreams. You haven't actually done anything wrong, but you've virtually done something wrong. And so they're picking up on that. But this time is a time to heal. This time is a time, you know, in Ecclesiastes it talks about a time to mourn and a time to rejoice. Everything is a paradox, right? There's a time to cast away stones. There's a time to gather stones together. There's a time for every perfect thing under heaven in this time right now. It's a good time to heal. It's a good time to breathe. It's a good time to not make yourself crazy about the stuff that you should be doing. You're not crazy. I told you that the first week. You're not crazy for believing there's more to life than meets the eye. You're also not lazy. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. Other people might look at you as, well, you know, you're not doing all you could. You're being all you are. That's the key. You're being all you are in the moment. And sometimes that looks like licking your wounds, you know? Sometimes that looks like just taking care of yourself. There was another cartoon this week, hysterical. I thought 2 house plants, potted plants sitting on a windowsill. One says to the other one, you know, I plan to spend this time converting sunlight into carbon dioxide, but all I want to do is sleep and drink. So have you thought about, remember we talked about that the first few weeks of this? It's like, oh, now's the time to learn a new language. Now's the time to do some great, complete that novel you've been wanting. And 23 weeks in, how are you coming with it? Don't make yourself crazy. You've got all the time in the world. And this is part of the global healing that we're going through. There is tumult everywhere you look, turmoil everywhere you look. This, I promise you, is the forecast of healing. I promise you, this is paving the way for a healing that lasts, a healing that some of us consciously have been waiting for and working for a really long time, and that others of us unconsciously have been waiting for and even working for a very long time. There is a healing taking place, and it's chaotic because it involves change. Everybody I know who wants change, and a place like this attracts people who want change, because this isn't about the status quo. You know that this teaching really isn't about just keeping on with keeping on. It's about being all you came here to be. But everybody I know who wants change, who comes to a place like this, is terrified when it happens. And that's part of human nature. We wanted this and now we got it. We've talked about this before in the context of our musicians and performers and so on. Just the people, the small dedicated handful that you see on the stage here on Sundays, and the much larger group that you'll see when we reopen in the shows and so on. These are people who wanted to sing and they wanted to act and they wanted to perform, and then they got the chance and they stand there at first. Not these two because they're pros, and Jeffrey over here, but you know, they stand there at first and they're like, hemna, 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 because it's, I got what I wanted and I'm terrified. You ever get promoted at work? You're terrified. A person ever say, yes, I'll marry you? You're terrified, right? Doctor ever say, yes, you're going to have a baby? You're terrified. But you're grateful. You're grateful. So we live in this paradox at the moment. So change is occurring. I want to honor this morning a great person who passed away overnight by the name of Rabbi Samuel Karf, Congregation Beth Israel of this city. This man was a giant in the, yes, Jeffrey, just passed. And he was a giant not only to the people that he served in his own temple, but in creating the first interfaith coalition in the city of Houston and working for civil rights and human rights for decades, Rabbi Samuel Karf. This is a person we look to as an example, and there's so many right here in the city of Houston. I think of William Lawson. I think of so many great faith leaders that have shown people they're not just lecturers, and they're not just dispensers of sacraments and stuff, you know? They show people how to love. They show people how we're one. So come in, let's be part of the family. And through that, people discover their own magnificence. The first thing people need to be told is that they're all right. This is what Ernest Holmes, great spiritual philosopher, wrote pages and pages of complicated stuff, some of it more complicated than others. Some people even complain about the level of complexity of some of it. But remember where he started with it. People are dying for someone to tell them they're all right. You're all right. You're all right. And then from your all rightness, you look around and you realize everybody else is all right too. You realize that you may be taking out some nightmares on others, you know, that when you encounter somebody, you're encountering a person in process. Have you ever had somebody like go off at you for no reason? I tell a story in some of our classes. It's too long a story to go into now, but I had that happen one time out of the blue when I was a new minister in another city. And the conclusion that I came to, which was just within me, was that this person had been carrying an unconscious burden, an expression I got from Ernest Holmes, for a really long time. And I presented myself unwittingly as the opportune place for this unconscious burden to be offloaded. Right? This did not involve physical violence or anything. No lines like that were crossed. Basically, it was kind of an insult, you know, to my face. But I realized that everybody is in process. And I continue to realize that, and I want you to realize that as well. The person who cuts you off in traffic or the person who's rude to you at the store or whatever is somebody who is operating under an unconscious burden of guilt, of shame, of fear. This does not give them a free pass to step all over you and your rights, but it makes them part of the same community, the same family, the same human family. All right, well, enough lecturing on civility. Let's go back to the cosmic side for a moment. You came here to be fully you. And you came into a world that's better furnished for you to do that than it first appears. Especially if you were born into poverty, or you were born in illness, or you were born into a broken family, or where there was addiction, or where there was some kind of obvious trouble. You might say, well, I don't have the advantages other people have, and you're right. But you have special tools, special gifts, especially attuned to who you are and where you've come from, that lay within reach. And you can pick these up and do amazing things with them that rival whatever anybody else has done in the world. Not that there's any comparison, but you can be fully you. And you can thrive. You can thrive with what's at hand. I bring this up because there's another group of people I want to recognize. I'll read you some of their names and see if you've heard of them. How about Pete Hill? You know Pete Hill? Good old Pete Hill. Cumberland Posey, Bill Foster, Oscar Charleston. I'd never heard these names before. These are 4 out of a list of 35, 4 names. And I was surprised I hadn't heard of them because I'm a baseball fan. I love baseball. I've followed baseball for years. But I'd never heard of these men, these players. But they're in the Hall of Fame. They're in the Hall of Fame. There are 35 men in the Hall of Fame out of slightly over 300, which makes that about, 12% of the Hall of Fame never played before a white crowd. These are members of the Negro Leagues that began 100 years ago this baseball season. And what these fellows had in common was they loved to play baseball. And they were good at it. And later, much, much later, as the leagues in the mid-50s, as the white league began to integrate, white managers and white players looked back on the careers of these men, many of whom by that time had retired from play, because they started in the 20s, you know. Typically, a ball player plays 10 or 12 years, and in those days, conditions being what they were, especially, they didn't have the equipment and stuff they have now, and so the injuries and whatnot, the toll was taken. But the managers and the white players said of these men, they're better than we are. All of the third basemen that you've heard of pale in comparison to one of these, a name here. I think it was Saul White. I'll have to check. Who they said was better than Brooks Robinson, was better than the third baseman you have heard of. And here they all are. And Satchel Paige I'd heard of. Cool Papa Bell I'd heard of. And then I'd heard of people like a center fielder for the Birmingham Black Barons. Have you ever heard of the Birmingham Black Barons team? They had a center fielder named Willie Mays. And the Indianapolis Clowns had a right fielder named Hank Aaron. And I had a friend, this was either in high school or just after high school. I had a friend who was in the hospital, and I went to visit him. And we sat there with the TV in his hospital room, drinking vodka. Drinking age was 18 at the time. And watching TV as Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record. Sat there in astonishment. And these men, they were shunned, they were ridiculed, they had to stay in certain hotels, travel certain routes, eat in certain restaurants when on the road, from game to game. But they loved to play baseball. And they're in the Hall of Fame. And Jackie Robinson in the National League and Larry Doby in the American League became, as you know, the first two to integrate Major League Baseball. And others followed. Satchel Paige played in the major leagues for a game or two, not long. None of these men played more than a full season in white baseball. And now, can you imagine baseball all white? No. Nor would you in a million years want to. Well, it's happening. Things are changing. Things are changing. The Hallmark Channel runs sweet romantic movies, right? All summer it's wedding movies. And then about October it's Christmas wedding movies. Yesterday they broke ground because they ran 3 original movies back to back. The first movie had a black couple. The second movie had a lesbian couple. The third movie had a black and white couple. And this is new ground for them. And I salute them. And there are those who would say, why did it take them so long, and this is crazy? But the time will come in 6 months or a year when it will be forgotten that this was ever a thing, that this was ever an issue. We're winning. We're winning. Because in the world, bringing all of the disparate parts of the world together, people who don't look like each other or love like each other, bringing everybody together and saying, you're all right, you belong, and you have a place, is the same thing at a global level as bringing all of the different emotions and intentions and ambitions in the self together into one place. You don't want to be a fractured, fragmented person. They're very unhappy people. You don't want to be somebody who's pushed your feelings away. They're very lonely, sad people. I met somebody once who never laughed. You'd say something funny or something funny would happen and everybody else in the room would be laughing, and they'd look at it and they'd crack just the slightest of a smile and they'd say, that's very funny. But they wouldn't laugh. Just a little tee-hee if that, but no laugh from the gut. And at the time I just thought that was strange. And time, I thought they were kind of foolish, and I had all sorts of judgments about it. Now, as I look back on it, I realize they were in pain. They had so much sorrow or anger or something underneath that if they started to feel, they'd have to feel it all. And up like a volcano, it would come out of them. We can't function effectively if we're not hitting on all cylinders. And the two main cylinders, you're a two-cylinder engine. I'm a two. We don't need 8. We don't need 12 or 16, you know. We got 2, thought and feeling. You're working on thought and feeling, you got it going on. You got it going on. Trust your feelings. Trust your thoughts. Cultivate trust in your thoughts. I know Eckhart Tolle says don't trust your thoughts. I disagree. I go more with Emerson. He says to believe in your own thought is genius, and to believe that what you think is true for everybody is genius. In other words, to believe in belief, to believe that the same law that you're using is available to everybody is pure genius. Well, thought and feeling united, that's your cosmic sense. That's your cosmic sense right there. So to know what you came here to do starts out as knowing what you came here to be, who you came here to be. Be you. Go be you. Go be you. Just go be you. What do you like? What do you enjoy? You don't have to defend it. You don't have to explain it. How do you like to live your life? Others may call you eccentric. You know what the definition of an eccentric is? Somebody who's found their bliss, to the astonishment of everybody else. But we're all doing this. Read Jonathan Livingston Seagull for more on this. Somebody who finds their own particular genius, and everybody else is like, no, that's wrong, you can't do that. Oh, wait, I want to try that too. And this is always how it works. Everybody who comes along, every philosopher who comes down the pike is thought of as being a crackpot or something until it's like, oh, wait, how do you do that? How do you manage that? In baseball, they'll tell people, you hit funny, you throw funny, you're not doing it the way you were taught. In music, right, Jeffrey? Piano teachers will tell you, you're not sitting right. Glenn Gould, the great Bach interpreter, had scoliosis so bad he had to sit like, he had to hunch at the piano, do like, his recordings are priceless. The man was a genius, right? And they told him that he also hummed all the way through. So on the recordings, he's humming along to Goldberg variations or what, you know, right? Oh, this is great. Jackson Pollock with the painting, with the, on and on and on. The great ones are thought of as being a little bit different, maybe a little bit difficult at first. See if there's anything I forgot here. A question from the, I'll take questions from the audience. Cool. We don't do this normally. Yes.
Was Willie Stargell on your list?
Well, my list is on my, he's not on this list because he played in the majors. This list is fellows who didn't. With the exception of Satchel Paige for a really short time. Willie Stargell, I don't know if he began in the Negro Leagues. He probably did. He may have been a little too young to, but I'll look him up, or does our viewer know?
I don't think the question
Okay,
I just put out
okay.
there, so.
The word Google comes to mind. Willie Stargell, Willie McCovey, you know, a number of the great black players of my youth. So when I'm watching them, I'm like 10 years old, and they're maybe 30, which puts them born in the mid-30s, which, so, you know, I don't know. You'd have to see. You'd have to check it out. But you can find the list. I can email you if you need me to type it all up for you, the list of names of the 35. I'm going to read them to you. All right? And then you can find this online yourself. So this is in the order in which they were inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard, Monty Irvin, Cool Papa Bell, Judy Johnson, Oscar Charleston, Martin DeHigo, Pop Lloyd, Rube Foster, Ray Dandridge, Leon Day, Bill Foster, Willie Wells, Bullet Joe Rogan, Smokey Joe Williams, Turkey Stearns, Hilton, I imagine that's a nickname, Hilton Smith, Ray Brown, Willard Brown, Andy Cooper, Frank Grant, Pete Hill, Biz Mackey, Effa Manley, Jose Mendez, Alex Pompez, Cumberland Posey, Louis Santop, Mule Suttles, Ben Taylor, Cristobal Torriente, Saul White, J.L. Wilkinson, and Judd Wilson. Those 35 men you can see. Make your way to Cooperstown. I'd like to go sometime. It's real hard to get to. It's kind of middle of nowhere, but up in New York State, and see them enshrined in the Hall of Fame. So let's see, is there anything else I forgot here? I don't think so. We'll come back to it. I had one other funny thing to tell you, but I'll save that for next week. Basically, what I want to leave you with today is that there's a cosmic intention that's pouring through you, which has no purpose, no agenda beyond that you should show up and be fully who you are, because you are a spark of the divine. It doesn't need you to do some particular thing in order to fulfill your destiny, but you feel the need to do some particular thing to fulfill your destiny. And when you step in any particular direction, all of the wisdom and all of the support that exists in potential now shows up in actuality for you. And so if you decide you want to be a musician, all of a sudden a stream of music is coming through you. If you decide you want to be a teacher, all of a sudden, not only a stream of information, but a stream of compassionate engagement with others is coming through you. And if you decide you want to be an architect, or you want to put roofs on houses, or you want to build cars, or put new engines in them, or whatever you want to do. Or if you decide you want to do 3 of the things that I named, or 20 things I didn't, all of that wisdom, all of that capacity, all of that physical endurance even, begins to flow through you because you have turned on the tap. Simple as that. So spiritual growth is really about turning on the tap. There's a source, okay? There's a method, there's a process by which it gets to you. There's a tap. This week, look and see which taps to turn on in your life to express more fully the vibrancy, the magic of who you are. Let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence. All one. Expressing in and as me. And I'm speaking about me now because this is a classic spiritual mind treatment where I'm going to have a knowing about all others, those within the sound of my voice and beyond. I affirm and know within myself there's peace, there's justice, there's a certain kind of order that's not forced but organic, by which all things are falling together, even those things which appear to be falling apart. I affirm and know that there is a presence that is healing and restoring in every life. It's surrounding now the people of Congregation Beth Israel. It's surrounding now those who have surrendered loved ones into eternity. It's surrounding the people of Iowa who experienced wind damage, the people in Southern California, where I affirm and know rain is coming to put out fires, and everywhere else on this planet, too many to name, where humans and animals appear to be in peril. There is a power greater than any opinion, greater than any political stand, economic viewpoint, partisan agenda of any kind. There is a power that only knows yes, only knows one, only knows itself, occurring in this world by means of each one of us. And so I know for each person watching today, a sense of courage and purpose and tenacity. As schools reopen, unless they don't, online or in person, we're not sure. From moment to moment, the news seems to change about what we ought to do and what we ought to be scared of. But there is one thing that does not change. And that's that cosmic container that holds us all within itself while we work things out here at the level of being human. I affirm and know for each of us that we remember that container, that source, that one. The back of it all, whatever it looks like, there is unconditional love. And for this knowing, the way that it manifests in form in the life of each one, each unique godling, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
Now I invite you to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I have been here, I think, since 2005. And I have heard that song for, 15 years now? Celebrate life, and it becomes all that you want it to be. I never heard that line that way until today. It's everything you want to celebrate life, and it's everything you want it to be. Oh my God. I mean, it just hit me right there in the core, and I'm like, I started to cry. So, in a good way, in a good way, in a good way. Let me be clear. So I was just like, celebrate. I know right now it seems like there's not a lot to celebrate, but today, find something, whatever it is, big or small, find something to celebrate, because that is where the power is. That is the power of love. That is the power of gratitude. That is the power that greases the wheels of the universe. So please, celebrate your life. Big ways and small. Feel it, because it truly will put you on the path to making life all you want it to be. And in that, knowing that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. I am a part of that love. It flows through me, in me, as me, just as I know that it does each and every one of you. And in that love, I celebrate. I celebrate that love. I celebrate that feeling. I celebrate that knowing. I celebrate you. I celebrate this teaching. I celebrate this team. I just celebrate. And I encourage you to celebrate with me. And I do it in gratitude. Because life is everything I want it to be in that moment. And I release and know that it is so, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.